Sing with me. The more we get together, the more we get together, the happier we'll be. 'Cause your friends are my friends and my friends are your friends. The more we get together, the happier we'll be. This classic children's song was the background to a commercial I saw the other day. It seems like most commercials these days are putting some kind of COVID-19 spin on the commercial itself and lifting up our shared humanity in some beautiful ways. I know there are marketing strategies that are targeting our consumerism, but they sure do have the power to tug on our heartstrings sometimes. And what a time to recognize deeply that the more we get together, the happier we will be, since right now we cannot get together and we're just not very happy. This crisis has ripped the cover off certain ugly truths about our souls and our society, I think. In addition, it has revealed how we can maybe only handle so much of ourselves any given day. It is also showing us how bad we need each other, how much we belong to both the people we know and to the people we don't know. The example of people working on the front lines in hospitals and grocery stores and delivery trucks and technology wakes us up to see the extent of those to whom we belong and depend on. We have a lot more brothers and sisters in this human family than we may think. This is the vision God has always had, but we too often miss. That we need each other. We need to be in community. We need physical contact. Even the people who drive us nuts, we need them too. It all makes us happier to some degree, whether we see it or admit it all the time. And however messy it may be, we need to be devoted to one another simply because of our God who remains devoted to us. This portrait of the early church in the book of Acts we just heard a moment ago is about just that, beautiful and messy devotion. What grew the faith of these early Christians was their devotion to the teaching of the gospel, their devotion to fellowship and to share meals with each other, their devotion to be in prayer together. They were devoted because of the awe and wonder of God's Spirit penetrating their lives. Jesus left them so marked up with grace that they simply could not remain the same. They had to respond in some way. When something is that good, you simply have to respond and devote yourself to it. Whether it is the most fabulous piece of cheesecake or simply seeing how Jesus made it clear that everyone belongs to God, when it is that good, you have to devote yourself to it. And these baby believers were devoted because they were amazed. And they were amazed because they were simply paying attention to God's Spirit at work. Their devoted response is evidence that God is not messing around. Their thinking had changed from, I used to think of God like this, to now I think of God like this. I'm simply in awe of how God in Christ has created this new way of seeing, a new way of living, a new way of loving. These early Christians show us what being Christian really looks like. There's a story that I've treasured for a long time. It's a story of Donald Miller, a writer, that he tells about a sense of awe and wonder he unexpectedly experienced one night. And up until that night, Donald had never liked jazz music because it didn't resolve. It doesn't have a clear solution or a sense of closure. And in a similar way in his life, Donald didn't like God because God didn't resolve. God didn't seem to fit in whatever parameters Donald wanted God to fit in. And then one night on a street corner outside the Baghdad Theater in Portland, God's Spirit surprisingly showed up to Donald in a different way and showing him a different way. He stood on that corner for 15 minutes watching in total awe as a man played his saxophone. Donald was transfixed by this saxophone player because the man never once opened his eyes. For at least 15 minutes, he was totally lost in the devotion to his instrument. After that experience that night, Donald's views of both jazz music and God changed dramatically. He explained it like this. He says, sometimes you have to watch somebody love something before you can love it yourself. It is as if they are showing you the way. This fledgling Christian community in the book of Acts, these early believers, they're referred to as women and men of the way. They are people of a new way of seeing and living. They are people of a new way of belonging. They are a community of a new way of together seeking and finding Christ in the faces and lives of other people. Day by day, they spent much time together. They shared their meals, they shared their lives, and they lived with glad and generous hearts, praising God and being in prayer and looking out for each other. Day by day, their sense of who God is and what God is all about increased greatly. Day by day, their devotion deepened greatly. Day by day, dear Lord, 3 things they prayed: to see thee more clearly, to love thee more dearly, to follow thee more nearly. Maybe in such a time as this, we have a unique invitation to live day by day. Even in a time that doesn't seem to offer a very clear way, perhaps the first Christians, these early believers, remind us that sometimes you simply have to watch somebody love something before you can love it yourself. It is as if they are showing you the way. Friends, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And his steadiness lies in waking you and me up day by day to see just how much we are loved and just how much we belong to one another. And the more we get our acts together with this gospel truth, the happier we will all be, especially when we can be together again. May the peace of Christ stay with you in these days.